BTL coming at you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, we are back in studio after our first, really, it wasn't a vacation week. It was just the way our schedules worked out, that we had a week that we had to do best of last week. And I don't know if you know this or not, but we've done over 70 shows this year already.
I did. I'm driving for each one from Broken Arrow, so I do remember that we were doing it. But I actually listened to the Best Of show on the way down here, the podcast that you did in 2007 with Gary Judici.
Yeah.
So 12 years ago with the Steve Kennedy and Aaron Martins interview. It was basically a throwback to 2007 when Kennedy set the record, and then Aaron got his first Elite Series win, and it was really cool to listen to that.
Long time ago.
It was.
Man.
That was when you were under the time constraints.
Yeah.
There. So you had like 13 minutes and 10 seconds to talk to Aaron.
Yeah.
And I was thinking with those two guys, that had to be the most difficult show to produce in the history with those two, to keep it dead nuts at an hour with 13 minutes and 50 seconds. But great Best Of shows to listen to if you haven't listened to those. Kind of a throwback. There's one, I think, with Brandon Polinick on it too as well. So, and then we're actually going to have some more Best Of shows coming up. And then that should be the last Best Ofs for a while, and we'll get back into the swing of things.
It could be more if you continue to be on the roll that you're on and you end up qualifying for championships and other stuff like that. We'll get into that later, but we have a number on my list here is quite long. I don't know if we can get to everything today, but we have a number of things to get to.
Do we have a time constraint today?
No.
Okay, then we can get to them.
All right.
We haven't done a live show in like a week and a half. We could go 90 minutes.
You're right. We may get through them all. All right. Good guest today. We're going to have Brian Snowden on. We haven't talked to him for quite some time. He is actually practicing at Guntersville, a little different format. Not format. It's just schedule-wise. This is actually their second day of practice.
How does that work?
Well, the final day is going to be on Monday.
Okay, so the tournament starts on
Friday. Yeah, they go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Okay.
All right. They did that because Sunday was Father's Day, and they wanted to give everybody an extra travel day to get to Guntersville, and that's why the schedule is the way that it is.
All right.
Not a bad move, because you and I both know, we've said this, and it's been documented. It is a great day to do live coverage. On a Monday. Great day. So that should work out well. So we're looking forward to talking to Brian. Big event for him. He's kind of right there on the bubble line. I think he's 39, 38?
Yeah, he's 39th. He's actually tied for between 38th with Mike Huff in the Angler of the Year standings. Now remember, the Elite Series has a lot of fishing left on it. It's got Guntersville, the St. Lawrence River, Cayuga,
and Fort
Gibson, and the Angler of the Year Championship.
Yeah, a lot of
so
stuff
it's
left.
not. It's and we've been through this saying before. It's nut cutting time on the Bass Pro Tour and the FLW Tour, but there's still a little wiggle room on the Elite Series, especially with this 75 angler field. You know, he's like right there in the mix. You know, 50th place has 287 points.
Yeah.
He's in 39th with 314 points, and then 30th place is 334 points.
Yeah.
So this is a swing deal here. The northern ones will really kind of see where we shake out on who makes the Classic. Remember, over half the field makes the Bassmaster Classic this year in the Elite Series. It kind of skews the stats and numbers, because when you had 108 guys, you could have a guy who had a real stinker that really didn't get any points, but with 75, I mean, a top 50 is very doable here. So a lot more movement to go on the Elite Series.
All right, we'll talk to him in about 10, 15 minutes here. A couple of things, and then we're going to get into what I feel, and I've known you for a long time now, Matthew. I think, and in talking to a couple of people, probably your best performance, forget about where you finished. I mean, just the way that this whole thing went down at Rayburn, probably the best performance that you've ever had in a bass tournament.
Yeah, I mean, let's not get carried away. That's not saying much, considering it's an eighth place in a Costa series.
No. I know, and we're going to get into that, though. We're going to get into what Matthew did on Sam Rayburn. The other thing, we haven't done a show since the Blues were victorious. Did you see the parade? Did you see any of the...
I did not see any of the parade.
Unbelievable crowed in St. Louis.
I actually, the Game 7 was on Wednesday night, and the day one of the Costa started Thursday. So I went out Wednesday, and then I had the meeting, and then I came back, and they had the pregame stuff on NBCSN, and then the game on NBC, and I did not touch tackle till about 11 o'clock at night, and I was boat 6 the next morning. I was at the ramp at 4:30 in the morning, and I just put it. I had compartments open right outside. I stayed there at the Rayburn Inn and just watched the game.
Yeah.
And we were kind of texting back and forth, and I was actually texted with Mercer and Chris Zaldane and some of the hockey fans that are on the fishing. So yeah, it was badass watching the Blues win the Stanley Cup.
And to see that sea of blue, because that's what it was. Have you ever been to the Arch in St. Louis?
Dozens, hundreds of times.
You know the park that kind of is in the front?
Yeah, there's a park in the front, and then there's like cobblestone that goes down that people park on right next to the river. Yeah, 100%.
It was unreal.
I've walked down there hundreds of times. We would go down, and I played youth hockey down there about every other weekend of every winter for 12 years.
All right, great stuff. And because I was victorious, not only on the Sharks series.
You're winning bets on everything. Fishing lure bets. You need to do this. You need to constantly have some sort of bet going with a viewer. I think that'd be cool. You could kind of get it. But you got, what do you have, crankbaits over there?
I got crankbaits.
Freaked out. Those are the Big Daddy Strike 3s from Lucky Craft. Those are not made anymore. Those are like...
That was Brian.
Yeah.
Brian in California sent
those
to me.
I've got a lure.
Yeah?
The Ducket swim bait. I think that was from Joel, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. I got the Chick-fil-A, which I'm going to use. I got Max that sent me his team hat.
Just taking care of you, man.
We've got beer.
Yeah, and you're going to sample that. I myself, Brian, I want Brian to know in California, I cannot drink alcohol for a period of time right now because of the medicine.
Did you change your meds?
Yeah.
Are you still on the butt shot?
It's
or now
not
is it a, now you're taking a pill?
I'm back on the shot, but I cannot have alcohol for 90 days.
How did you figure that out? Is that just what you said?
No, it's part of the reaction. Part of the
what
mixture.
Happens? You like your other leg goes numb?
Dude, I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, couldn't
tell you.
Can I crack the IPA?
You can well, don't do it now. Do it after we have Brian on. Sample it a little bit and give us your take on it.
I mean, I
still have one, dude. I have one in the cooler, and when I get the green light, then I can have a.
For our fans in Dubai, it is 5 p.m. in Dubai.
It is.
It's 5:40 p.m.
Somewhere, yes, it is. So you're going to sample it. All right, I guess the big news yesterday, the DQ of an Elite Series angler for the Guntersville event, Mr. Tacarante.
Jesse Tacarante, Florida pro. He had a medical exemption last year with his back. He fished 2 years ago, and then he came back, and he's actually having a really good year, up in 32nd in the Angler of the Year points. This'll put a ding in it. This'll definitely hurt the chances. But I will say this: remember Derek Hudnall earlier this year? Honest mistake, was DQ'd from the Hartwell tournament because he practiced 28 days from the off limits.
This one's a little different,
though. Listen, though, from the off limits, and he thought, and there's 75 guys, and Hudnall's had a decent year other than that. He's had some downs, but he's in 59th place. He's got 260 points, and 40th is 312. So he might possibly be able to still make the Classic with a missed event. We actually saw Kevin Short do that when he missed an event due to the tornadoes that went through Arkansas. So you add the Angler of the Year championship, if they could, sneak into that, and the fact that there's, Jesse will be fishing in 3 events after this. But I mean, you do a couple top 10s back-to-backs, which you could do in a 75 boat field, all is not lost. But basically what happened was, let me see if I can get this right. And this is all out on Bassmaster. Now I got to give Bassmaster a lot of credit on this. Because when there is a rules infraction at the top level of professional bass fishing, they say, here's a rules infraction, here's the penalty, and then they give their angler a chance to respond to it. and they publish it as it happens. So,
like any other professional league would do. Agreed? Most of the time, there are very, very few situations, and what I think about, what comes to mind is the whole steroid thing that was going down.
with the MLB Players Association.
But they do make a statement, and you do get a response. Sometimes the players say something, sometimes they don't.
But this is more akin, I would say, and I'm not saying this is the equivalent, but to a spitball or tar on the deal or a corked bat or something. I think it's
a little bit more than that.
You know what I'm saying, that's a breaking a rule, not some internal thing. So they announced Tuesday that Jesse Tuckerante been disqualified during the 20-day off-limits period. Other than using publicly available information, competitors cannot solicit, gather, or intentionally receive information via phone, electronic device. And then it says there shall be no exceptions. It said Tuckerante referred to it as a simple misstep. He completely accepts what happened, and then I'll just kind of paraphrase what he said in his statement, which he's getting a little bit of grief for, which I don't think he should. I think what he did was totally fine at the time. When the Elite Series schedule was changed and Lake Guntersville was added as a replacement venue, there was announced that Guntersville will be on the schedule. The Costa Championship was going on, which was going on Lake Guntersville,
right?
Which meant that you could still gather information, receive it up until the end of that Costa Championship,
right?
So due diligence, homework. He went and got some stuff, Mark. He talked to his peoples. He got some waypoints.
Yeah.
For eons out of 110 Elite Series guys and 170 FLW pros, as long as it was legal, I would say 90+% of anglers do exactly that. I mean, that was the standard protocol before it went to the off limits as soon as the schedule was announced, correct?
No, you're right.
Do your homework, talk to the guys you know. I mean, they've got the whole networks of guys out there. It's been like that for decades. And a lot of guys will say it. So anyway, so he did it. So he said, hey, I'm not familiar with this. I'm from Florida. I'm going to figure out. I'm going to talk to some guys. So he said he saw some opportunity to reach out, Facebook messages, text before the off limits. Then on May 20th, 2019, he said he thought he had misplaced a set of waypoints that he had received months earlier when it was legal to get them. So he posted a message asking whoever sent them to resend them. And he thought since he'd already gotten them, that it was okay if he re-got them. It was not okay. He got dinged and he got DQ'd. In a nutshell, that's what happened. He 100% accepts responsibility. He said his integrity and the integrity of bass rules are more important. This is not something I take lightly. I've worked for Jesse before.
Yeah.
Back when Enigma first came out, remember when Aaron had that weird wrap on the side of his boat? And we're like, what the hell is Enigma?
Yeah.
And it was the rod, so I was doing like daily wrap-ups with him. I mean, the guy's high octane. He's a million miles a minute. And he doesn't take any BS, but I mean, he's always big good to me. So you got to take him right now.
Yeah.
Got to take him at his word for what it says, because in professional bass fishing, until it can be proven, this is the way I always say it. Why are you laughing at me?
We're going to get into this after we have Snowden.
Until it can be proven that you 100% intentionally broke a rule, that you tried to cheat, that you tried to gain an advantage, knowing what you were doing, you give that guy the benefit of the doubt until it's proven. It's like that on the local level. It's like that on the regional level. It's like that on the national level. Until you have 100% proof, you got to trust the guy. And
real quick. I know he's been catching some grief about, well, wait a minute here. You're a professional. What are you doing? Going on social media looking for help and looking for waypoints.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
It's a little weird. All right. Which brought me to a question, and we need to take a break here so we can get Brian on. We'll get into it after Brian. But if somebody paid the money, and obviously this is a very old school way rather than social media. If somebody put a billboard in the lake vicinity on where these events, I need help, please call. Well, that's basically what he's doing.
Yeah, basically that is
what he's doing. Is you're putting a billboard out there. But
I think instead of asking for help, what he did was he sent a message out to say, whoever gave me these points, could you contact me? But I'm saying, here's the thing.
Not getting it
here's
from
the thing that I've been told by a couple professional anglers that really makes sense. And these guys have guys approach them. You'd be shocked, because I've spent a lot of time around them and driving in the truck a lot. Yeah. It's unbelievable the amount of information that the average fan wants to regurgitate to a professional angler. It's just like, it's like this weird reaction where they're like,
I want to help.
They're like, oh, there's angler X.
Yeah.
Bridge pilots in 12 foot of water on a blue flag.
I want to help.
And I don't understand why that is. And one of these guys said, listen, anybody who really has the juice out there, who really knows what's going on, ain't going around just yelling waypoints out to random strangers.
You know why?
Well, because they put the time in
money.
and they found it, and they're smart enough to and yeah.
The money.
So anyway,
that's a great point, though, Matthew. All right, we're going to get into more of that. I got to chuckle about that. I could just see some dude's mug right there on a billboard going, I need help.
And then, hey, calling the billboard company, this has to be down 28 days before the event. Like this, I mean, if this thing is up 27 days before the event, I ain't paying the billboard fee.
Wow, pretty crazy. All right, we're going to take a break, come back. We've got all kinds of stuff to talk about after we have Snowden on here. The instant feedback is blowing up about what is going down in Alabama with an HQ that is going to be there in the future. We might touch on that.
Whatever are you talking about, Mark?
Yeah, that's kind of blowing up. I've got not issues. I've got a solution to my confusion, and I think a whole lot of other people's confusion about all this MLF stuff that's going on. So we're going to get into that. I want to talk about, there's an issue at Lake Tahoe right now. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Not.
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into, I actually watched the entire series on HBO, Chernobyl. Have you heard about this?
I have.
Unbelievable series. We'll mention that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about what I have going on next week, which... dude, I'm getting bombarded with emails already about the comparison. It's unbelievable the people that have contacted me already about this. We'll get into that. All right, we're coming back with Brian Snowden. Glad to be back in studio here on a Wednesday, everybody. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
I got my power pole down, stuck in the mud in the bottom of the lake, sitting so still in the wind and the waves, could even be a hurricane. I got my power pole down.
AFCO has a new foul weather rain suit called the Hydronaut. A lot of the features that I really like about it first is the speed vent hood. If it's raining out, you know, how a person gets wet is when you run down the lake and the hood comes down. With the speed vent hood, it's going to stay up. It has a camera mount in the pocket on the chest. The Hydronaut has a 2-layer, 100% waterproof nylon shell. If you're interested in a rain suit that has a lot of cool features that's going to keep you dry, you need to check out the Hydronaut from AFCO.
Aaron Martins here. I'm going to be telling you about a new product by Sunline. It's Siglon PE x8. I've been using it almost extensively all year for my frogging, flipping, drop shotting, shaky heading, worming, jerk baiting. It's by far my favorite Sunline braid. I honestly, this is I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly, it's the best braid in the market of any of the braids. Definitely check it out. It's a price point line, $14.95 for 165 yards, and that could last you a whole year, just one spool with using leader material. It's Siglon PE times 8. It's my favorite braid, and I think if you use it, it'll be your favorite braid too.
Blue Water by TH Marine, offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
All right, we are back here on a Wednesday, kicking things off. A couple shows this week. By the way, I want to remind everybody, just in case you have not looked at the lineup, tomorrow we're doing another show tomorrow. Tommy Biffle is going to be on tomorrow. I've had several requests to get him on. Is not adapting well to the game played over on the MLF side.
It'll be a ray of sunshine. Hope and
I'm really
optimism.
looking forward to that one. I really am.
How many questions are you going to ask him that he answers with?
I set it up to him. I said, look, man, here's the scoop. All right. You're stinking it up. You're not doing well. People want to know why. People want to know, are you going to adapt the way the game plays? I said, are you willing to come on the show and talk about it? And he said, yeah.
I might save the beer for that show. I'm going to need it.
All right. So Biffle tomorrow. Really looking forward to that. All right, today, Brian Snowden. We've got him on right now, and a very important tournament for him on Guntersville. But as you mentioned earlier, still 5 events.
Mm-hmm.
After
4 events.
4 events after.
There's 5 to fish. Yeah.
Right, 5 to fish, 4 remaining after Guntersville. So it might be what is considered a moving tournament.
He does have a 13th place finish on Guntersville in 2010.
All right.
It was in May. I thought it was interesting. Out of the top 50 in that tournament.
Yeah.
Now you look at that top 50.
Ledge guys?
There are only 6 out of the top 50 who are fishing this tournament 9 years later.
Oh, wow.
John Cruz, Mark Menendez, Bernie Schultz, Bill Lowen, and Jason Williamson.
Interesting.
And Mr. Snowden.
Interesting.
Now, he's done good on TVAs before. He's got a lot of top 10s on Kentucky Lake,
Yeah.
obviously known for his Ozark expertise. But
Yeah.
he's one in Texas, one in TTBC. But
Yeah.
so, not uncomfortable on Guntersville, I'm sure.
What's his earnings? Did you look
He's
that up?
won over $1 million.
Yeah, very
He's a
quietly.
millionaire. Yeah. And then,
Quietly.
then you throw the TTBC and some of the other stuff. He's
Yeah.
probably over $1.5 million.
Yeah.
He's
Won
probably
he
got
won
a Rolls Royce, maybe a Bugatti.
I don't think so.
Just rolling around Reed Springs.
Bugatti. Jeez. All right, let's bring him in. Brian, you there, man?
I'm here.
All right. He is on the water right now. A little different practice kind of format where this is actually day 2 on a Wednesday. And we appreciate you taking time out, Brian, to come on the show. Let's kind of jump right in. How's practice going so far, man?
Well, unfortunately, it's been a little tougher. I was very excited to get down here, and I've never been here this late, so there's a lot more grass than I've ever seen on the body of water, in Guntersville. And so it's thrown a little bit of a loop to it. It's been storming, and we got off and on thunder showers, so it's been pretty cloudy, and the deep fish haven't seemed to cooperate much in the clouds. If the sun pokes out for a little bit, you can catch a few, but it's definitely not wide open by any stretch of the imagination.
All right, Brian, let me ask you, and Matt and I kind of talked about this at the beginning of the show. I said that this is a really, really important tournament for you when you look at the entire season. Is that a correct statement, and how important is this tournament to you?
Well, until you said that, I wasn't even worried about it. But, I try and take them one at a time. So thank you, Mark. You've really you've upped the game a little bit here because, you got to look at it as a I try and look at it as one at a time because if you have a bad one, you've got to push it away real quick and get ready for the next one. So I try not to dwell on too much of what's coming ahead. I'll prepare for the tournament, do what I do for each one, and then take it from there. But I really like to take them one at a time, and that keeps you focused on the event at hand and doesn't get you too far out into the future.
Okay, well,
one of the things I've started.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it seems like every time you get excited, like I was excited for Lake Fork, and it was a lot rougher than I thought, and the fish did totally different things than what I expected. And so far, the bigger fish I've caught have been totally different than what I anticipated here. So, I was really looking forward to a great structure deal, and I'm sure it'll be one that way. But for me, it's been few and far between on the structure. So you get excited about an event like Guntersville, but you got to make sure you fish with an open mind because it seems like it's always different than what you plan on.
I consider myself familiar with the Ozark region and Table Rock, Lake of the Ozarks, Grand Lake. Mark does. I know a lot of our viewers are from that area. You get out there on the TVAs, and you mentioned all the grass on Guntersville and stuff. Are there any lessons from the Ozarks that translate to those TVA fisheries like Guntersville, or do you really have to have a different mindset when you get out there in that region of Alabama and Tennessee?
Well, from one thing I've always learned is it's still about hard bottoms. You can have grass, and a lot of times people will catch fish around the grass, but the key seems to be grass and then mixed in with shells or some harder stuff always tends to play a more important part in catching fish. So that's, we're blessed with tons of rocks, so we're always looking at different rocks or rock piles. And here, when you find some of that stuff, it's like a gold mine, because there's just not a lot of it. So, Kentucky, I've been real fortunate to find quite a few of those places, and here I've got some, and it's always about those shells and those hard places, and usually, mixed in with grass or completely barren of grass, just stumps and shells tends to be where I catch them the best.
Brian, when you got on the water for the first time and you were kind of checking out things that first hour that you were on the water, were there conditions or were things going on that you expected? In other words, did you have kind of a predetermined viewpoint of what the conditions were going to be like, and then the first hour you're going, this is not what I thought it was going to be?
Exactly. It was pouring down rain, and the fish were, the fish I caught tended to be a little shallower, more relating to the grass than the hard spots and stuff. And I don't know if that was because of the clouds, but even today it seems like they're either 20 or 30 feet deep or they're 5 or 6 feet deep. So there seems to be a big void, which is normally where I do well here, is fishing, that 10 to 15 foot range.
Tougher to practice 2, 3, 4 days out from a tournament when you're on a fishery where every boat ramp is packed Monday through Monday?
Yeah.
I mean, is there any chance that someone finds something that isn't being exploited, and then you add the later day there, and with the tournament starting on Friday, you're gonna have a full field fishing on Saturday, 35 guys fishing on Sunday. So majority of these guys on the weekend. Obviously, this time of the year on Guntersville, there's a lot of boats on the water. How do you deal with that when you find something on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and know that there's 200 to 500 other bass boats on the water every day up until the start of the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you just got to work around the other boats. Sometimes it's all about, boat positioning and angles. You can do bring stuff uphill, do things a little different. But it really plays, it used to be when it's on, Thursday and Friday, you're all excited when you make the top 50 cut. So the extra boats aren't as a bother. Now we're going to be fishing where we can make some ground up or move around and stuff on Saturday, and there will be a lot of boats out. So, it was always one of those things for me, try and find as many spots as you can, and then also try and find some spots that aren't so obvious.
Brian, Dave in Alabama wants to know, do you think the entire lake is going to come into play this week, or are there certain areas that are just going to get pounded?
I think a lot of the, from Seabold down, Browns Creek, Towns Creek, those are real famous areas. Got a lot of good structure in there, and they just produce winning stringers of fish. So I think those are going to get a lot of attention. I'm up the river a little bit today, up around Goose Pond, and there's probably I can count 15 boats just doing a 360 here. So there's a lot of boats out already, and it's just going to be the guy that figures out a way. You can graph them and see them, but triggering those fish to bite's been the most difficult thing. So the guy that figures out a little different way to work his lure, some lure that they're not used to seeing a lot, I think that's going to be the ticket of making a lot of these structure fish bite.
Do you like these kind of tournaments, Brian?
Yeah, they can be definitely trying. I would say, I've had it hurt me a lot, like in Kentucky and stuff, when it's on a Saturday or a Sunday and there's a guy that's watched you catch fish and then they're fishing their club tournament. So it can be real nerve-wracking. It's almost worse. I think it's worse than sight fishing. If you get in a bad rotation sight fishing and you're behind someone that's catching your sight fish, it really hurts. But here, there's so many people that fish every day, and, they fish the same spots you do. So it makes it real difficult to keep focused and, conduct your game plan as, your normal day of business, because a lot of times there's too many boats in an area to even get on it.
I think one of the things that's underappreciated, not talked about enough, and you hear a lot of I think it's pro speak. A lot of the pros like to say it. I don't think a lot of people understand it, is the word rotation. You talk about these guys, I got in the right rotation, everything kicked off, or I got in a bad rotation and I didn't catch anything. Just kind of explain what a rotation is, and then what it means to be in a good rotation, what it means to be in a bad rotation, and how to change your rotation throughout the day.
Well, the rotation is just you're trying to hit your most productive areas when you think they're going to be the most productive. And sometimes your timing can be off and the fish bite early or late, or clouds change your rotation. Say if you were catching fish shallow on laydowns, you wouldn't want to do that as much when it's cloudy as when it was sunny. So you can kind of adjust your day based on the weather conditions. But then also what really hurts you in your rotation is when you get behind, say you're fishing behind Van Dam with a crankbait. Not a good rotation to be in if he's fishing several of the same areas that you are. So that's one of the things. If you're using the same technique as a guy that's very efficient at it, and you're following him and he's leaving as soon as you're pulling up, and then you go to the next spot and he's there as well, that's when you get into that bad rotation. And it happens, doesn't matter if it's structure fishing or sight fishing. A lot of times that'll take place. So
then when that happens and you find out you're in a bad rotation, you change techniques, you just go to a different part of the lake. Instead of going to what your next 2 or 3 spots are, you skip ahead a couple stops. I mean, is that how you kind of change your rotation then?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll start and jump ahead either 2 or 3 places to try and get in front of someone, or do like you were saying, go to a completely different area, run 5 or 6 miles and kind of get away from the same, the guys or a couple guys that are doing the same thing in that area. Also, you can definitely change your lure. One of the best things to do is if they're cranking, you can throw an old Carolina rig or a Texas rig big worm, something that's a little slower, or hop a football jig. That's one thing I've always tried to do. If I see someone cranking an area that I want to fish, I'll go in and throw something slow, even if I have to go behind him. Now, if they turn around and start fishing it again, that's when I try and adjust my rotation and move, several miles to different spots to try and get away from some of the people.
So this is way more of a chess game than the average fan realizes when they see you guys out there slinging offshore, especially, Guntersville, Kentucky, Lake Pickwick, any of those. It's a real chess game where you're taking into account a lot of information other than what is just happening in your boat.
Correct. And you're watching people where you want to be. If there's someone on there, letting it rest for an hour, trying to keep it in view, so you might come back after it's set for 30 or 40 minutes. And then you always got to try and save a few places. Kentucky Lake's a perfect example. I've done well there and had to save places because of the locals. So these are places you usually catch them, but you've never been there, and it's hard to do. But on day 3 or day 4, once you've made that cut, it's a lot easier to go experimenting on some of those places, and that's kind of what you have to do to keep your once the boat started getting wrapped and people started recognizing who you were. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things you always had to take into account when you're fishing a structure tournament. And
I wanted to ask those questions for Jeffries, because in our past one-on-one battles on Arbuckle Lake, he's gotten into a really bad rotation behind me.
Good point.
And I just wanted to make sure that he understood to give him a chance next spring.
I got it now. All right. Hey, Brian, for the fans out there and from an education standpoint, especially on Guntersville, it seems like time is one of the critical factors. And when I say time, the amount of time that you give an area or a waypoint or one particular spot that you feel confident that you're going to catch fish, but then 10 minutes goes by, 20 minutes goes by, you don't give a bite, you don't get any kind of action whatsoever. How much time do you give that area, that spot, if you're not getting any action?
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I like that 15 to 30 minutes at the most without a bite, and then I'm moving. But I definitely always like to return. It could just be you're a couple hours early. And the bad thing now with like live scope and stuff with my Garmin's, you can see them. You can see them move. You can see them follow your swim bait. You can see them do all sorts of things. So it'll keep you in an area almost longer than before when you didn't see those fish. So it's become one of those things. I've got to watch the clock, and I'll say I've got 15 more minutes here. If I don't get a bite, I've got to go, because you're watching them, but you can't trigger the strike. So I like 15 to 30 minutes at the most without a bite, and then I'm off to the next spot.
Interesting. All right. A lot of people, I don't think, realize how versatile that Brian is. Brian's been doing this game for a long time. Strength-wise, this week on Guntersville, what do you think there's one factor about your game that is going to get you at the top of the leaderboard?
I think it's the ability to read electronics and patience. If I can find a few schools, I can usually make those schools last for 3 or 4 days, just giving them a variety of different baits and looks, and spending the time idling. We've been idling for 6 or 7 hours, and then it's only day 2. So it's just being able to make yourself do that, not have to catch fish in practice, and be able to find those schools and give them different looks that a lot of people aren't doing. And we practice. Table Rock, I've been up the James River practicing different lures, trying some off-the-wall stuff, using some different techniques that I thought might be, something I could use here that not a lot of people are trying.
What are your thoughts on big schools of fish on these lakes like Guntersville? Because obviously there are big schools. Do you think different areas of ledges or creeks or coves just have a resident school of fish that move around in a group, and when you find them, you catch them? Do you think when you're not catching them, do they break up and disperse? Or is it basically like they just move around and you have to figure out where they are in this area? Or are they there all the time? They only bite some of the time? How do they set up? That's my question, because obviously if it was like that, over the course of these 3 days of practice, I would venture to say 75 guys will pull up and go whack, whack, whack. Oh my gosh, I can win off of this school. But only 5 or 6 guys will be able to contact that in the tournament and be in it at the end.
Yeah, that's what I think they do is a lot of times they'll position on the structure throughout the day differently. So depending on how you pull up and what time of day you're there, they might be in one location, point A, and then they move to point B, and then C and D throughout the day. So the guy that knows where they are and at the right time, I think that's more important. But because I think they do live or reside in areas. So if you took a major creek like Towns Creek, I think a lot of the fish that are out there stay in that creek all year. They don't move all the way out to the river because there's enough deep water. So I think they just reposition, and pressure can dictate where they position too. So, if you got something that looks really great on the graph and it's getting pounded all the time, they're not going to stay there forever. They're going to move away from that pressure. So they might be 50 yards, 100 yards down from what you think is the best area. And that's one of those things about positioning. And they'll change with clouds or wind. And they'll move up and down on that structure quite a bit. So, that's one of the things with using your electronics is so important to be able to reposition your boat as well as find those fish throughout the course of the day.
All right, man, couple more questions, and then we're going to let you go, Brian. I'm curious, how important is the first 60 minutes of the tournament day?
It's I'm always a slow starter, so I don't put much, I always like to get the spot I want. That always makes me feel better. But a lot of times, I don't catch them until later in the day. So I don't put a lot of weight into the first hour. There's been a lot of days where I've only got one or two at 10 or 11 o'clock.
All right. You still sporting the beard?
No, it got a little too hot for that.
I saw a lot of pictures of you.
That's a wintertime thing.
Is that what it is? Okay, man. I was. It looked good though, man. It looked very impressive.
Well, thank you.
Very impressive.
Yeah, my wife hates it, so that's what I do in the wintertime, just to make her mad.
That's pretty cool. All right, last question. I'm putting the over/under at 85 pounds to win. Is it going to take less or more than 85 pounds?
I think you're right on the money. I think it's going to be in that mid-80s, maybe a little more. It could be. I think with the conditions we got, if it was sunny and pretty predictable weather without these thunderstorms rolling in day and day out, I think it might be a little higher. But I think it'll be right around 82 to 86.
All right.
And, it'll probably still be that 15 pounds a day to get a paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. Great stuff, Brian, and appreciate you taking time out during your practice to give us a little bit of insight on what's going on at Guntersville. So we'll try to get you on during the off season too, but you still got a lot of fishing remaining. 4 events after this one, and plenty of time to rise up the leaderboard in the Angler of the Year standings, man.
Well, that's what we plan on doing, and hopefully Fort Gibson will get a little lower so we can get over there.
I have to reschedule that one again.
It's crazy.
You guys will be fishing it in January.
It is crazy.
Is it still that high?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's high.
Yeah. They're still canceling tournaments on Grand, on Fort Gibson. It's like Eufaula and Texoma are the only 2 lakes that are really...
Keystone, there hasn't been a jackpot or anything out on that, and they're saying until probably August.
It's insane. Never seen anything
and
like that.
And then how much did it rain last night?
A bunch. 3 to 6 inches of rain last night across central and eastern Oklahoma. Insane.
The offshore
amazing.
picnic
goes
table,
right through there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, I've done that at Table Rock. Yeah, I've done that at Table Rock.
Yeah. All right, man. I will see you at Fort Gibson. I'm going to be at that event, so looking forward to seeing you, Brian. Best of luck to you this week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
All right. See you.
Bye.
All right. There you have it, Brian Snowden. And cool stuff there.
No Ozarks on the schedule this year, was there?
No.
Was there? That'd be, for him to make a classic with no Ozarks on the schedule.
But once again, I think people don't realize the versatility. When you say Brian Snowden, for those people that have been around a while and see the Elite Series, obviously the event that took place in Florida always comes up.
He has a thing with, he does have a thing with Kentucky Lake where he catches them. But you look at his top 10 finishes with bass, and there's Bull Shoals, Table Rock, Lake Murray, which fishes remarkably similar to that. Another one on Lake Murray, High Rock Lake, which fishes like at Ozark Lake, Table Rock Lake, Lake of the Ozarks. Those are out of his 17, and he'll have one scattered in like a Toledo Bend or something, or Kentucky Lake. But the vast majority of them are his top 10s are on fisheries that are his wheelhouse.
Yep, I agree, but he's a stick. He can catch him. He's really, really versatile. I think that you like how he came out with the 85 pounds. I think that's the number.
Yeah, that's a solid number. You look at it.
Yeah.
He finished 13th in 2010 with 62 pounds, 13 ounces.
Yeah.
So he didn't make the top 10 at over 20 pounds a day.
Yeah. All right, man, I want to get into your performance at Sam Rayburn. I mentioned to open the show, probably your best performance, because when you look at 3 things, 1, the field and the field size, 2, the fact that your experience on Sam Rayburn, very limited, not a whole lot of experience, some, but very little. And then 3, the ability to put together a pattern and identify what you needed to do to accomplish that 8th place finish. Definitely, in my opinion, your best performance in any event that you've ever fished in.
Would you consider it a success?
I would.
Okay.
I would.
Landon Tucker sent me a private message.
Yeah.
He said, man, I really want to post this, but I don't want to make Mark upset. And the comment was, dude, you were only 7 places from an acceptable finish for Jeffries.
That's not it.
I know,
the
I'm
key
giving you a
word
hard
that you
time.
said there was success. Absolutely 100%. Dude, let me ask you 3 questions. Did you learn a lot?
Yes.
Success. Did you build the confidence based upon what you put together during practice?
Yes.
All right. And then the last question is, how confident do you feel going into the next event?
I mean, I feel confident. Once success breeds success.
That's what I'm
once you
saying.
cash a check, then you're like, okay, I can cash a check at this level. Once you have a top 10, you can say, okay, I can cash a top 10 at this level.
Yeah.
And then you go back to that 2007 interview from the Best of show when Aaron Martins won his first Elite Series. He said, man, the monkey's off my back. Now I won. Now I feel like I can win again.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. I mean, even though it's an 8th, I mean, you look at that field. I mean,
It's some big time guys. Plus, you were the highest finishing Oklahoma angler.
yeah.
A lot of Oklahoma anglers in that event.
And there were a lot of guys who were locals, but really, I mean, the fact of the matter is this thing could not have set up. Can I open this beer? I'm going to taste this beer now that we're talking.
Yeah.
It's like 7 p.m. in Dubai now. This is the, oh, crap.
He just spilled it all over the set desk there. What's the verdict? Don't choke on it.
It's very foamy right now.
Good. Are you an IPA guy? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good?
Yeah, do we have a towel or anything?
No, I'll find something. No,
Okay.
not around
I mean, I don't
here.
want the studio. I got
it's
it
all
on
right.
the mouse pad. I got it on the Chick-fil-A, the hat, now on the
Jeez.
swim bait. All right. So this thing could not have set up any better for me because obviously it was on Grand. Grand was 10 feet high. They rescheduled it for Rayburn. So I was, yeah. It was Brian.
That's right.
Brian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Cool.
The Illuminati IPA. Look at the size of that rooster.
What's it called?
Hen House.
Yeah.
Hen House Brewing Company. The Illuminati IPA.
All right, there you
The
have it.
9:19 a.m. beer.
Good stuff?
Or on the Porosnik pattern.
No, there you have it. Jeez. All right, anyway.
So it could not have set up any better for me because they rescheduled it from Grand. And I was really nervous about Grand in June because I've caught them on Grand in June. I've won a boat on Grand in June 5-6 years ago. But Grand has changed a lot. There's no guarantees out there. It's tough. It's tough right now. So I was fine with that. But I'd done a bunch of research. I did no research on Rayburn. You know, the plan was call up Kelly Jordan and say, hey, what if I'm going to go to Rayburn in October, what ideas would have? And he might say, hey, go in this area, blah, blah, blah. Not waypoints or anything. But then I was going to get the trails map and I was going to do some research and I was going to go down there for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Then they flipped it. So I had Kurt Dove's youth camp and then right after that went to Rayburn. So it actually works out because now in October I have Grand and Lake of the Ozarks back to back.
Yeah.
So I was doing Kurt Dove's youth, and I'm going to tell you 100% how it went down. I'm going to give you not detail, but I'm not leaving any part out of this.
Okay.
So I did Kurt Dove's youth camp, and it got over with on a Friday. And Kurt actually moved it up so the guys fishing the Costa could get down to the Costa there.
Right.
Well, it's an 8+ hour drive there. So it got over with on Friday night, and I had to upload some videos and do some laundry and stuff. So I stayed at Kurt's house that night. Kurt still had some campers there, so he stayed at.
And he's fishing the Costa too, right?
No. He's
he
not.
didn't fish it?
There was another Pro Bass Camp episode 2 coming in that week.
Okay.
But it didn't start till Monday.
Okay.
So I said, yeah, I'll be the only one there. He's like, yeah, make sure you leave the door unlocked. Matt Reed is coming in tonight. I said, okay, that's cool. And I was thinking, Matt Reed, he's really good on all the East Texas lakes.
Yeah.
If you follow him, he's a legendary guide and angler down there.
Yeah.
One of the nicest guys ever, FLW Tour Pro.
Yep.
So he came in and I said, I'm going to ask him, because I knew it was 6 feet high. I knew that they catch him flipping there based on the work that I had done. And I knew that upper part of the lake was typically the area that you wanted to stay in.
Okay, wait, time out. Before you go into that, real quick, you need to set it up and make sure you let everybody know that you can get any information
Like up until the day of the tournament.
There you have it. All right. So I don't want anybody to think that he was doing anything wrong.
No,
Okay.
not at all.
All right. Go ahead.
The Costas are the Wild West of info.
All right.
Actually, I know a guy who's a guide who's fishing in it who had an angler call him up and wanted him to guide him in the tournament that he was fishing in the week before. And he's like, dude, get out of here, man.
All right, continue.
So Matt comes in and he comes in. We go out, we get a steak because I'd been eating camp food for a week. So we go get a steak and we come back and I said, hey, dude, I got this Costa. I said, what would you suggest? All right, he goes, I would flip. I said, anything else? He goes, nope.
Go flip.
I said, okay, well, that makes it easy because there's no way that I can beat Albert Collins, Russell Cecil, Todd Castle died, Keith Cobes, any of those guys offshore. I ain't going to do it in 3 days. So right then and there, I said, I'm going to trust Matt. The guy's been guiding on the lake since he was 14. I'm going to flip. I said, where should I flip? He said, stay within 4 miles of the bridge. Either side.
Okay.
So that's what I had.
Popular area.
Yeah. Right there around Castle Boykins.
Yeah.
That's where I put it.
Yeah.
So that's what I had. And he gave me the waypoints to one offshore rock pile. He gave me the waypoints to one brush pile. And he gave me the waypoints to 2 brush piles and 1 rock pile.
Okay.
And he said, you're an Ozark guy. This is the only rock pile I know about. So I had those 3. I never even checked 2 of them. Never even went down lake and checked them. The other one was at like 25 foot. There's nothing on it.
Right.
So that's what I had going into it. So I put in at Castle Boykins, I idle across, I catch a 3-pounder on my first flip on Sunday, like third flip on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, I'm just going to learn how to flip in here. So I was flipping a 7.4, 20-pound test sunline and just a little creature bait.
Okay.
It's like 8 foot deep. There's like buckbrush, willows, cypress,
A plethora of
dead
stuff in the
willows.
water.
It's all in 8 foot. You
Yeah.
got hay grass. You got a bunch of stuff. But I'm surprised there's the BFL the day before, and I'm like, dang, I'm up here. I got like 30 bites on the first day, and I jerked on all of them. And I had like probably 14, 15 pounds.
Okay.
A lot of pound and a halfers. So I was pleased with it. I was like, okay, this is stuff you could survive. And I already said coming in, there's 130 boats in it. I said cashing a check for me is a win.
A lot of Texas guys too.
A lot of Texas guys. Yeah. A lot of guys who only fish like Rayburn. So I said, I can kind of hang with that, but the tournament's 4 days out. So I just kept progressing as the days went on. And I burned 1/8 of a tank of gas in practice. I never made a cast offshore. I never looked at anything else. And I stayed in a 2-mile area and flipped for 15 hours a day. In the last 2 days, I took my hook off and just fished with a hitchhiker. And I saw a couple nice ones. And I got dialed in to where I realized they were under the cypress trees as it got later. And when they were eating crawfish, because there was some in their throat, that they were eating bluegill on the bushes and on the dead willows.
You were dialed in.
I upped my stuff to a 7.9 extra heavy rod, 25-pound test. I had a 18-year-old kid, Dylan, in the back of my boat who he was just fishing behind me, but he was throwing a punch skirt with a 3/4 ounce weight. So he started getting a lot, just as many bites as I did with the 1/2 ounce. So then I switched to what he was using. So I've taken, stuff from a bunch of different people, added it in on my own, talked to Brad Hallman a lot during it. And he kept saying, dude, you're like dialed in on this stuff. And I'm like, I don't really know about it. So you'll see in the Bass Boot Camp that'll come out on AFCO in a couple weeks. I said, I think I can do 12, 13 pounds. And if I really grind, I get 2 big bites. And I did that and had 16 pounds on the first day. And then I did it again and had 16 pounds on the second day. But I was fishing new stuff. I kind of understood where they were. Same kind of area, though. Yeah, they went from in the exact same areas. Yeah. I'd move 50 yards. Hell, I haven't been down this bank. I kept a trail of every day. Yeah. My execution was flawless. For fish that are in 8 feet in bushes and trees, I landed. It just
didn't break off well. Any?
No, I broke off one time in 3 days.
Wow.
That's it. That's a good line.
That's big time.
And it worked out. I got 2 big bites each of the first 2 days. I made it into the top 10. It wasn't easy. I grinded on it, but I kept sticking with it. And I think the fact that I didn't go offshore, and Hallman brought up something that was really interesting. He goes, now and it's funny, we're having Biffle on. He goes, now you know why Biffle is good and why Biffle sucks at times. He goes, because it is total commitment.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't been totally committed, I'd have done what almost everybody in that canyons area did, which was, after the flipping bites slowed down, kind of slide out and start catching 2-pounders on the worm because they were everywhere. I did a little bit on the last day to save some money. I caught probably 30 keepers on it. Yeah. And I did just random spots. Yeah. But total commitment to it because, between 11 and 1, I caught a 5-pounder on day 1 and a 6-pounder on day 2. But you see how Biffle could destroy everyone flipping because that's all he did. You could also see how he could end up where he is this year because that's all he did.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what he says. And then the last day, there's like a 500 boat tournament. I knew I was out of fish. I had planned on making it a 2-day tournament. It was like a total bonus. So I went out, caught 11 pounds, never got the big bite, got a bite early, had great co-anglers, and then cashed it in and drove home. They made $5,400, but it was crazy because in front of me in line was Dickie Newberry and behind me in line was Albert Collins. 2
legends in the state of Texas.
It was wild. So, 9 times out of 10, do you beat Cecil Castledine, Hallman flipping, Andrew Upshaw, Keith Combs? No. But this one time, I got it. So I'm happy. I'm very proud of it.
There might be more. I totally think that once again, this was your best performance. And it's not about the finish. It has to do with the field, the way that you put together a game plan, the way you did your homework. Everything went together. You had a flawless week from an execution standpoint. And yes, Matthew, this is progress.
Not a success, but progress.
No, it was a successful week, all right, based upon what you've learned and the way that you demonstrated the fact that you beat some of the greatest anglers in the state of Texas.
But there were several reasons why. One, it was a one-off tournament with the water being up that high and the way it was dropping. Had it been normal, I would not have stood a chance. 2, I don't think a lot of guys had put the homework in that time of year that they would have had they known it being June because they were offshore. Look at first and second place. Those guys were dragging a rig and a big worm offshore. And 3, I happened to land in the right area, and I was fortunate enough to land those big bites. So I had to have 3 things to happen. Now, are those 3 things going to happen every tournament? Absolutely not. Like I said, this one time the stars aligned, and I took advantage of it. Yeah. Like I turned a top 5 pattern at Table Rock into a 34th place finish, and a top 5 pattern at Kentucky Lake into a 29th place finish. Yeah. I turned a top 30 pattern at Sam Rayburn into a top 10 finish. Yeah. So I flip-flopped it.
Yeah, that's badass. All right. Great job, dude. All right. The instant feedback is blowing up with a lot of stuff, but one thing that's on there is this MLF Cup qualification and the Red Crest qualification. Some people are confused. Here, I'm just going to say this. I've got a solution that hopefully MLF might be listening to this. You tell me if it's a good idea, bad idea, or whatever, Matt. All right, listen to me. The confusion is that they have 2 events and then boom, based upon your performance in those 2 events, you qualify for a cup. Agreed?
Yeah.
All right. And then you have 2 more events and then you qualify for another cup. Then you have 2 more events and you qualify for another cup. And then finally you have 2 more events and you qualify for another cup. Now, with the Red Crest, it's the top 30, correct?
Yeah.
Top 30, boom, you're in the Red Crest. That's how it works. All right. The confusion is, and you guys tell me, you can send me emails, you can get on the instant feedback. I am frustrated by the fact that there is so much stuff on television about MLF and the events that they've had due to the events that have taken place last year, the events that have taken place this year. It is so, saturated.
Muddled.
Yeah, and saturated. This is what they need to do. This will take care of this entire thing. First of all, let me address the stuff that's on television right now on the 3 networks that they're on. It might even be 4. All right? Run something like a little crawler and intro the show. And this show took place on November 12th, 2017 and featured blah, 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 blah. Explain what this replay is on the network that this particular show is.
But I don't think it's a replay.
Airing. Yeah, they're showing. Dude, they
No.
still had Jack Link's stuff on there.
Jacob Wheeler just okay? So here's the issue for everybody. Let me just set.
Well,
you want me to set the scene up?
I'm addressing the television issue first.
Right, but you'll understand the television if you set the scene up to understand what's on television.
It's the Cup events
that were filmed in 2018.
Yeah, but they're showing Cup events maybe from 2 years ago too.
But what did Jacob Wheeler just win that he was on the MLF with the Cup? That was a recent one.
I have no idea.
He won something.
Well, he won the Table Rock event.
No. He was with a cup, not the trophy.
Dude, I have no idea. Couldn't tell you.
I think he won one of the cups that was filmed in the dark in 2018 before the Bass Pro Tour that he got on through the selects.
All right. Timeout. I don't know. What I'm saying is if they would set up the show that they are running on WFN, the Pursuit Channel, the Outdoor Channel, and I think they're on Discovery. I think there's 4 networks that they're on. When I'm watching it, they're not running the same episode. There's 3 different episodes on during that, and you get confused based upon what they're doing.
Maybe we're just dumb. Maybe everyone else gets it, and we're just dumb.
Maybe.
Maybe we just like A, B, C, D.
No. So this is my solution. All right, from a TV standpoint, just set it up. All right, you guys have incredible resources from a production standpoint. Just set it up and tell people what you're watching. Then put a little crawler on there that in case somebody tunes in where they didn't catch the setup, that you are watching, the replay of the 2016 blah, 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 whatever. That way people know. They're like, oh, okay, I get it. That solves the television problem. All right, now let's go back to this year. When they go to put together the schedule for 2020, here's what they need to do, Matthew. All right, they have the resources. If they're going to keep the same structure, and I understand the structure, you fish 2 events, boom, you're in a cup.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
I like that structure.
This is what would make it better. Fish 2 events, people follow it all on the live coverage.
Then have a cup.
And have it on television the week following the cup.
But that doesn't make sense for their model. Because the cups are basically what MLF has been like. Look at it this way. The cups are what MLF has been like for the past 10 years, right? There's 4 cups.
Right.
There's been 4 cups for MLF for the past 10 years.
Right.
The BPT was created around those cups, and all the BPT is doing is getting anglers for those cups. So then the 4 cups are still in the summer and the fall afterwards. And then, I think they just had one. Obviously, if you look at social media, there are a bunch of cryptic posts from the Ozarks where guys were golfing around Table Rock. And God, I wouldn't think it would be on Table Rock again. But probably Bull Shoals, somewhere around there. What is it? Norfolk? Is that around there too? Who knows where it was? But basically what the BPT is to get the 30 anglers for those 4 cups that have been in existence for forever. But it's confusing for people to follow it all, because now in 2020 and in the last quarter here, you're going to have the live coverage of 2020, but then you're also going to have the cups, and you're going to also have the 2019 BPT events. Because what the issue is this year is you have sponsorship obligations where they've had to show the selects, which don't mean anything. Then they've shown the previous cups, which is before the formation of the BPT. So you're showing a cup show from 2018 in 2019 that has nothing to do with the 2019 BPT. But because it was filmed in the dark and had to be quiet, it's just like, bam, unless you're watching that show on it and keeping up with like 3 different levels, it's like, here's a post of someone with a trophy, but it's not the trophy that he won the week before. And the fact that Wheeler happened to win both of them simultaneously is probably a little confusing to everybody. Yeah. Because I was like, wait a second, that's a cup, but I know he qualified for the cup, but they just had a cup that was in the dark, but surely they wouldn't tell because it was filmed in the dark, but he also just won the BPT on Table Rock.
Okay, so back up a minute. So in 2020, if you had 2 events,
and then you had the one,
and then you had a cup event, okay, you can't get confused, and you are really building momentum off of those 2 events to showcase those top 30 guys at that cup event.
Right, but isn't the whole sponsorship thing?
Dude, you still get TV. It's on TV. That's what I'm saying. They have the resources to be able, you go event in January, cup event in February. Then that cup event that is made for television airs that following week.
So you basically have 4 mini championships before the big championship.
But that's what they're doing right now.
Right, they are, but they must have some sort of weird contract where I don't know.
Would that not make it better? Because
it would make it much more easy to follow.
Okay,
yes.
so you got BPT event, the top 30 from those 2 events, cup event.
Right.
Take that cup event, the following week, it's on television.
Right.
Next event, round 2 of the second stage 2 or whatever.
Here's where it really makes sense for the anglers. So I did this. So the BPT season, the 8 events, runs from January through June 30th, and then August is the Red Crest.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of anglers. There's like 8 or 9 owners who are done next week.
Yeah, that's a great point, man.
So then they have July, August, September, October,
nothing,
November, December, and part of January, where they are not fishing a tournament.
Yeah.
Now, if you make a Red Crest, you're obviously going to make some cups, but you can't talk about those cups. You don't know how you did in those cups until later in the fall. So you have months. Well, what's going on in those months? The final FLW Tour event, the FLW Championship, 3 Elite Series events, the Elite Series Angler of the Year. Now you're 3 months removed from your last tournament. The 2 other tournament organizations that you are competing against have had 6 events, have crowned a champion, have crowned an Angler of the Year. Now, obviously, you're going to have your 30 in the Red Crest.
But they're going to have, supposedly, they're going to have the TV stuff on while this stuff is going on, though, in the fall.
Right, but you're not fishing.
No.
You're not.
From an exposure standpoint.
What do you put out on your social media?
You got nothing.
Hanging out on the couch again?
You have 0. Unless you create some stuff.
Billings, Montana at the outdoor show?
I don't know.
I mean, what? You see, so when you... And I understand why they have to film in the dark, I guess, for sponsor obligations, because they're using the other boats and they're treating it just like the 4 cups. But when you have the 2 events and then you have a cup, let's say you're Angler X, and Angler X has 2 great tournaments to start the year off, right? Makes the first cup. Then sucks the last 6 tournaments, misses Red Crest.
Done.
Well, that angler is and wins the first cup. So 2 great events, you win the first cup.
Yeah.
Well, now you're relevant for the entire season because you are a cup champion.
Yeah.
That just like on the Elite Series, Dave Mercer goes, he won an event, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Well, let's say you have 2 top 10s and you win the cup and then you suck for 6 events. Well, now people think you had a horrible year as it stands right now. Because you just had 2 decent events and then it fell off. But if you win that, that's a pop that if you win the cup and you can tell people you won the cup and people watch that you won the cup, then the whole rest of the year, everyone's like, dude, you won that cup. You're getting more attention. You're getting more coverage. There's more articles that are being written about you, and you don't have a 6-month gap to where then you're not relevant until October again, and it looks like you sucked for 6 months.
So is that a good idea to set it up?
I've thought it was a great idea. It works chronologically.
And you spread it out over the year. Here's another.
And you can have 4 mini Red Crests.
Yeah.
Event, mini Red Crest that brings everything up. Event, mini Red Crest that brings everything up. Event, mini Red, and then you even have the blowout at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So you end up having 5 major events. How awesome was it in 2006 and 2007 on the Elite Series when Peter T is just bear pawing that trophy on the shores of Lake Onondaga?
Yeah.
When Wolak, when Rambanus, I mean, that may, you win those majors.
Yeah.
It's basically you turn those cup events into the Bassmaster majors.
How much better would it be for the industry that's involved, especially the tackle, rods, reels, baits, specifically baits?
100%, because now you have a timely cup winning bait.
It's relevant
Absolutely.
rather than the consumer sitting there or potential customer sitting there going, oh wow, it's the fall, but these guys are catching them.
He wins it on a sexy dog, and you're watching it in January in Minnesota.
Yeah,
cool. What am I going to ice fish with that thing?
Is that engagement going to take place where people watch and they go, oh, well, I got to go get one of those.
Not when it's
and then I'm going to throw it up on the
same
shelf.
Time of the year.
Yeah. So I think for the industry it would be better. For the sponsors it would be better. For the anglers it would be better. Logistically, dude, they have more production assets and have the capability. There are very few companies in America that would be able to produce that thing and turn it around in a week. They could do that.
The other thing that I find interesting is there are not many MLF guys. There's just a couple that are fishing Costa Series and Bassmaster Opens.
Very few.
So even in a normal year, you would have a handful, a lot of those guys that would jump into the Opens or a Costa Series. So it'll be interesting to see if any of those guys jackpot those as the year progresses.
Then the final event of the year, the Red Crest.
Yeah.
You have that ginormous buildup.
I think it gives you 2 events and then a pop, and then 2 events and then a pop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? If you don't want to activate at all of them, because everybody's been bitching about how there's not fans at them, activate at the Cups. Now you have 5 activations throughout the year that are spread out about one a month in 5 different regions in the country, and everybody can come out and get their autographs and eat their hot dog.
Yeah.
And buy their nitro.
Well, I think it's a cool idea.
Throw their Berkeley. Get their trailer hitch.
Buy their stuff.
Get their trailer hitch.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. The other thing that was on the instant feedback was the situation. And here's what I'm going to say about it right now. I have not done the research on the situation that has occurred in the state of Alabama where there has been some type of government funding for an HQ for Major League Fishing in Guntersville.
But not the Major League Fishing. It's the Major League Fishing Anglers Association.
Yeah.
Big difference.
The HQ.
The headquarters for the Anglers Association, not Major League Fishing.
Right.
For the Major League Fishing Anglers Association.
That is correct. I have not done my research. I will look into it. But I think it's quite interesting that funding for that has been approved by a government agency, basically.
I believe they also provide funding for the Alabama Bass Trail. Obviously a big source of
it's huge
of revenue for the state of Alabama. So it's not just like this. I mean, I think they've kind of been on board with the Alabama Bass Trail for a number of years.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me do a little bit more research, and we will discuss that in a future show. But I don't know. I can't really comment on it because I don't know a whole lot about it yet. I haven't taken the time to look into it, and I don't want to overstate anything that I really don't know anything about. All right, I want to get into this Lake Tahoe thing real quick. There was a story that came out in USA Today. This was kind of big news. And the headline, Matthew, says, "Don't eat the fish from Florida Lake because it is experiencing a toxic algae bloom."
Mm-hmm.
All right, Lake Tahoe. And there is a guide. It says, a bloom sampled on June 5th in open water about 10 miles southwest of some location. I can't pronounce it. Mayakaca. Mayaca? Port Mayaca, I guess. Contained toxin at a level of 17.6 parts per billion, according to test results from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. They released those numbers on Monday. Basically, it was deemed that this is extremely hazardous to humans by the EPA. Now, there was a guide. Hang on a second. I got to make sure. It says, some scientists believe another toxin in blue-green algae known as BMAA can trigger neurological diseases. It says, as a precaution, I'd say don't eat any of the fish from anywhere in the lake right now, said Paul Gray, a biologist who's been studying the lake for over 30 years. It says, even if you don't see algae in the water, there could still be toxins in the water because when the algae dies, the toxins remain. Now, there's a guide. His name is Mike Schellen of Buckhead Ridge. He's been a 25-year fishing guide on the lake. Said Gray is overreacting to a single bloom in a 730 square mile lake. This is him. I quote, Paul needs to keep his mouth shut and not panic the people, Schellen said. Quote, I know people whose families eat the fish out of the lake every single day and don't get sick. Schellen said that there have been algae blooms in Lake Okeechobee since he started fishing there and eating catches 40 years ago. I'm not dead. I've never gotten sick. Yeah, that's how dangerous the stuff is down there. So you got some controversy going on at the Big O right now.
I think that guy was drinking a Milwaukee's Best and smoking a Marlboro Red when he gave that interview.
He's a little upset. Hey, when the media puts stuff out like that, that could have and probably will have a dramatic effect on what people do in that community.
I'm just saying, if I was planning on going down to Toho to do some suckle fishing, I would probably go to a different fishery before I went and cleaned 15 crappie from that lake.
Yeah, there was a lake here in Oklahoma, the McGee Creek, because of the mercury levels, and they said, don't eat the fish, and then it just kind of blew over. But think about the economic impact about the fishing industry on the Big O in Florida. For this to come out in USA Today, and I don't know, I guess it's a matter of opinion. But I would think that
was it 17 parts per billion?
Yeah.
Apparently this stuff is really toxic.
So I don't know, man. I'm reaching out to Gene because I wanted to get
Gene Gillen.
Yeah. The
conservation director of BASS.
To get his take on some of the stuff that's being said about Okeechobee right now, see if he knows anything about that. All right. We mentioned earlier Tommy Biffle going to be on the show tomorrow, so don't miss that. Next week, dude, and I wish I had the guy's name, and I apologize. It's just I've had so much stuff come in. There was a viewer who is the general manager of a bowling center in Wichita, Kansas. Sent me an instant message, and then he reached out to me and called me, and we talked on the phone. He is also really, really into bass fishing, and he wants to meet when I go to this convention next week in Vegas about the Pins and Fins possibility, where we have a combination bowling fishing tournament. Now, folks, listen. All right, we're not going to spend 15 minutes on bowling talk here, but I do want to let you know I am going next week to the ICAST of bowling. It's called Bowl Expo. It's in Las Vegas. I have a number of interviews that I'm going to be involved with. I'm going to talk to a numerous amount of people about the comparison between the business side of bowling, the professional side of bowling, the just basically industry kind of media monster that bowling is compared to fishing in all aspects. All right. Now, you've never been to ICAST. Or, yeah, you've been to ICAST.
I've been to like 10.
All right. I'm sorry. You know how you get all those emails?
Yeah, 100%.
Come see, blah, blah, blah. They do the same thing for Bowl Expo. Hey, come see this. Come see that. Come listen to this. Come listen to that. So the journey next week is going to be, I'm going to take what I have seen and what I have been involved with at ICAST over the years and actually compare that to what is taking place in the bowling industry. We've made numerous comparisons. I have, Matthew, about how they are being enormously successful in certain aspects. And I've even said on this show, some of the stuff that the PBA is doing, the organizations over in the fishing world need to take a look at how successful they've been and the tactics and the methods that they are using to capture that audience that is outside of what the norm is. Because don't you agree that that's probably the biggest challenge right now for the fishing industry? You hear guys at Major League Fishing talk about it all the time. We need to capture an audience that is outside our puddle. We need to capture that audience to make that puddle bigger from a fan perspective, from a consumer perspective, from just a participation level. We need to increase that puddle. So everybody out there is trying to capture what is taking place in the ocean. Not the puddle, but the ocean. And the PBA has done a really, really, not just the PBA, but the United States Bowling Congress has put together efforts to try and capture the attention of the audience that just isn't familiar with the game.
Have they done a successful job of keeping those that are in the puddle and do attend the pool on a regular basis from really being ticked off? Just a bowling question, strictly bowling question, Mark.
One more time. Ask it one more time.
So they've done a great job of expanding the puddle.
Yeah.
Have they managed to expand the puddle without ticking off and disenfranchising those that are comfortable in the puddle and were in the puddle before this rapid expansion?
I'm sure they have, but I'm sure some people are not pleased.
Bowling question.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to find out.
Okay.
I'm going to find out. All right. I'm actually going to go to a meeting of the with the commissioner and president of the PBA.
Wait, whoa,
So,
what?
yeah,
What?
Yeah.
So that would
Monday
be the
night.
equivalent of a Don Rux. That would be the equivalent of a
Bruce Aiken.
Bruce Aiken.
Yeah.
Well, that's big league.
Yeah.
What does he do? Is he
he's
like an investor, a guy? I mean, is that like he
No,
a lifelong bowler? Or?
He was a bowler at one time, and then he was a beat writer for USA Today. I thought Tom Clark is his name.
No.
Yeah, he was a beat writer for USA Today. And then he went to work for the USBC, and then did some very, very creative stuff, and suddenly became involved with the PBA and became the commissioner and the president.
You know what's interesting?
Yeah.
Even with all this Fox stuff and all their expansion and stuff, what's a perfect score?
300.
Okay, just checking. That didn't change, did it?
It's funny. Matt, our good friend at the Outdoor Scoreboard, said the eye cast of bowling is called eye fling or eye roll. That's
If I won, it'd be called eye gutter.
eye gutter. Yeah, you probably use the bumpers, don't you?
No,
No. So
I've had a turkey before.
yeah, I'm really excited about meeting with Tom Clark.
The last time I really went bowling, I was up in New York, and I was with Russ Lane. I think I was with three elites anyway. I had done something to really tick you off. And I'm in a bowling alley, and I'm trying to bowl the 7th, 8th, and 9th frames, and I'm in a heated battle with Russ Lane, and I've got you in one ear just giving me the business about how I just failed you in the bass zone.
What?
You don't remember that?
I don't.
Yes, you do. Because they could hear you yelling at me through the phone.
How many years
At
ago
the
was
bowling
this?
alley, probably 5-6 years ago. Remember, I was up there. I had done something where I hadn't updated or something, and we
I
were
don't
stuck.
know.
We were at Oneida,
There were so many.
and they were like, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to beat Russ over here. Jeffries is just giving me the business."
I don't know, man. That was a long time ago, and I've changed. All right, I don't go down that path anymore. Let's see here. I'm looking at the instant feedback real quick. Dave in Alabama wants to know, when is the next one-on-one live lake challenge going to be? That's actually going to be in the fall. We're going to schedule that in the fall. We're actually going to have 2 of those in the fall. Neither one of them are going to be in Oklahoma. So I actually have a meeting in July at ICAST where we're going to decide those 2 locations. And then we're going to go from there. So Alabama, maybe. Kentucky, maybe. North Carolina, maybe. Even a West Coast one. Clear Lake is a possibility, which would be really cool.
Wow, that would be really hard to set a threshold on.
Yeah. Yeah. So working on that. We will announce that probably in at the end of July or in August when the next one-on-one live lake challenge. The next one-on-one live that we're going to have is going to be in September. We were going to do it in June after the Guntersville event. That has been postponed, actually rescheduled. We're going to do it in September, and it's going to be Matt Herron versus Hank Cherry.
Ooh, that could get intense.
Yeah.
It could be a battle of the scowls.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Matt can be pretty jovial.
That's going to be prior to the Fort Gibson event in September.
You got to
So
find a lake where the flip and bite and the jerk bait bite are on.
In September?
Yeah.
Where would that be?
I don't know.
10 Killer?
So I say you got to find a lake where they can both
I need your
fish
help
their
on that,
strengths in
Matthew. I really do.
10 Killer's 30 foot high right now.
I know.
I think Jason's still catching them out there, though. We just
There's
posted
like-
a photo of a crankbait with a smallie and a largie on the same cast.
There is one ramp open, and it's not even a ramp. It's just like from the lake that's in the backside of one of the marinas. It's the only place you can launch right now on 10 Killer, because I was wanting to go. Let's see here. I'm looking at my list. I think that's it. Oh, I do want to mention, if you have HBO, you got to check out the miniseries Chernobyl. I learned so much from that. How old were you when that happened? 1986.
I was 3.
So you have...
No, I mean,
No.
I've watched it and all the stuff. I've watched
Yeah.
all the stuff with Maria Sharapova and her parents that got out
Yeah.
of Chernobyl. And then I've watched all the river monster stuff with Jeremy Wade, where he goes back and fishes Chernobyl. And
Yeah.
I've watched a couple of the documentaries on it.
Fascinating. Really, really, really good stuff. Learned some stuff about nuclear energy, which I had no idea.
It's kind of scary, isn't
Dude,
it?
you know how smart you have to be able to do that stuff?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, I had a co-angler at Sam Rayburn. I'm pretty sure he was like a rocket scientist. He like designed propulsion jet engines
Yeah.
for NASA. All
Crazy.
sorts of stuff.
Hey, we talk about, and have mentioned Wes Endicott, one of the greatest guys to
Talk about his
locally-
jigs on a monthly basis.
Yeah. He is some kind of nuclear welder on nuclear reactors all across the world.
Just makes bank. I mean,
Flies
how do
all
you
over
not
the
make
place,
bank
man.
doing that?
There's like only 100 people that do this in the entire world, and he's one of them.
So he
think it's
goes
what
and
it is.
welds something, and they give him like a 6-figure check, and then he just goes and buys round
Would
rubber.
you say that is a specialized technique?
Just goes and welds some, and then buys $100,000 worth of round
Yeah.
rubber and
So anyway, I
ties those jigs.
highly recommend, if you have HBO or have access to it, and watching that miniseries. It's 5 parts, and it concluded. I watched the last one last night and was just amazed at some of the stuff that has taken place. All right, Matthew. Anything else? You got anything else on your list?
No, I'm gonna go get some Chick-fil-A.
All right. Beer was tasty.
It's delicious.
All right. Need to thank Brian.
I'm gonna chill that, eat the Chick-fil-A, and then finish it after lunch.
All right. Tomorrow, good show.
Text from my mom for cracking a beer at 9 a.m.
Well, it's 5 and where'd you
It's
say?
like 7
Dubai?
in Dubai now.
All right. Good to be back in studio. Tomorrow, Tommy Biffle. And then tomorrow we will discuss what we're going to do next week. Obviously, I'm going to be in Las Vegas, so we're going to have to you're going to have to learn how to do this very, very quick, or we're going to have to do another best of week next week. So we'll kind of...
We're doing a best of week next week.
There you have it. Matthew said we're doing a best of. Hopefully you will enjoy throwing back to what we've done in the early stages of BTL. All right, that's it. Matthew, once again, great job at Rayburn. I want to thank Brian Snowden for taking time out during his practice at Guntersville, and we will be back tomorrow with Tommy Biffle. Everybody stay tuned. We're out of here.